Hollywood is full of stars. Bright lights, dazzling premieres, faces on billboards that seem larger than life. But what happens when some of those stars shine not only because of their talent, but also because of their truth? What happens when the spotlight isn't just about fame? It's about courage, authenticity, and rewriting the very story of who gets to be celebrated in Hollywood. That's the journey we're stepping into today. For decades, Hollywood created images of perfection. It wanted its leading men to look a certain way, act a certain way, love a certain way. But times have changed, and slowly, the walls that kept so many actors from living their truth are beginning to fall. Today, young, black, openly gay actors are stepping into the frame, not just as performers, but as powerful symbols of representation. They're redefining masculinity, redefining beauty, and proving that authenticity is more magnetic than any script. This is not about gossip. It's not about sensational headlines. This is about something bigger. It's about representation in an industry that for too long has shut certain doors. It's about courage in a world where coming out can still be a career risk. It's about breaking stereotypes that have held back not only actors, but entire generations of people watching from the outside, waiting to see themselves reflected on screen. And these 5 actors, they're not just fitting into Hollywood, they're changing it. From Broadway stages to Netflix dramas, from the halls of superhero universes to the sci-fi legacy of Doctor Who, from heartfelt coming-of-age romances to blockbuster thrillers, they're leaving their mark everywhere. Each one of them brings something different. One is a Tony-nominated Broadway powerhouse who's also conquered the screen. Another is a trailblazer who went from a refugee story to one of the most iconic roles in British television. One turned a superhero character into a fan favorite before becoming a music icon in his own right. Another is already a blockbuster name, appearing in massive franchises while proudly living his truth. And one more is breaking ground as the new face of queer love stories on Netflix, giving audiences the holiday rom-com they've always dreamed of. These men are proof that Hollywood is no longer just about keeping secrets. It's about breaking free from them. They are young, they are handsome, and above all, they are fearless. And by the time we reach the end of this journey, you'll see how they are not just actors, but architects of a new Hollywood. One where talent, truth, and authenticity are finally allowed to shine together. So buckle up, because the story you're about to hear isn't just about 5 individuals. It's about an entire industry beginning to change. Jeremy Pope's story is one of passion, resilience, and an unshakable commitment to authenticity. Born on July 9, 1992, in Orlando, Florida, he grew up in an environment that didn't always encourage a young black boy to dream of Broadway or Hollywood. But Jeremy had a vision early on, a belief that performance wasn't just entertainment, it was a calling. Even as a teenager, he was captivated by the stage, finding refuge in acting and singing, spaces where he could express what words alone could not. For many kids in his neighborhood, sports or traditional paths felt like the only option, but for Jeremy, the stage was home. He pursued theater with a focus and determination that set him apart, eventually leading him to New York City, the heartbeat of Broadway, where he would carve out a place in history. His first breakthrough came with the play Choir Boy. Jeremy's performance in the lead role of Ferris Jonathan Young, a gay student at a prep school for young black men, wasn't just powerful, it was revolutionary. He poured his soul into the role, portraying vulnerability, defiance, and the longing to be accepted, all at once. It was a character that mirrored many of his own struggles, and audiences responded with awe. Choir Boy earned him a Tony Award nomination for Best Actor in a Play, a remarkable achievement for someone so early in his career. But Jeremy wasn't done making history. Almost simultaneously, he starred in Ain't Too Proud, The Life and Times of the Temptations, another Broadway smash. For his role, he received a nomination for Best Featured Actor in a Musical. In one single year, Jeremy Pope became only the 6th person in Broadway history to receive 2 Tony nominations in 2 separate categories. The theater world had no choice but to stand up and recognize the talent that was impossible to ignore. But Jeremy's reach wasn't confined to the stage. Hollywood soon came calling. In 2020, he starred in Ryan Murphy's Netflix miniseries Hollywood, a reimagined version of post-World War II Tinseltown where outsiders were finally given a chance to shine. Jeremy's role as Archie Coleman, a black gay screenwriter fighting for his voice to be heard, was both groundbreaking and deeply personal. Once again, he wasn't just playing a role. He was embodying the real struggles of countless artists who had been silenced for decades. The performance earned him an Emmy Award nomination, further cementing his reputation as a force in both theater and television. Jeremy's journey continued with a guest role in the acclaimed series Pose, another Ryan Murphy production that spotlighted the struggles and triumphs of the LGBTQ+ ballroom community. But perhaps his most powerful screen role to date came in 2022 with The Inspection. In this A24 drama, Jeremy played Ellis French, a young gay black man who joins the Marines after being rejected by his family. The performance was raw, heartbreaking, and transformative. Critics hailed it as one of the finest performances of the year, with many suggesting that Jeremy could be on his way to Oscar recognition. It wasn't just a film, it was a statement, a bold declaration that stories about black queer men deserve the same depth, attention, and respect as any Hollywood epic. What makes Jeremy stand out is not just his immense talent, but his willingness to bring his full self to every role. He doesn't shy away from vulnerability. He leans into it. He doesn't dilute his identity to fit into Hollywood's outdated mold of a leading man. Instead, he reshapes the mold entirely, showing that strength and sensitivity, masculinity and queerness, can coexist powerfully on stage and screen. At a time when representation matters more than ever, Jeremy Pope has become a symbol of possibility. His impact goes beyond awards and accolades. For countless young people, especially black queer kids, Jeremy's visibility is life-changing. He shows them that you don't have to choose between success and authenticity, that being true to who you are can be your greatest strength, not your biggest obstacle. In an industry that once forced actors to hide in the shadows, Jeremy's openness is a revolutionary act. The truth is, Hollywood has often demanded silence from actors like him. But Jeremy Pope refuses to be silent. His voice, his artistry, and his unapologetic presence are proof that a new generation is rising. A generation that will not be defined by stereotypes, but by their talent, their courage, and their refusal to compromise their truth. Jeremy's story is not just about an actor chasing success. It's about a trailblazer clearing the path for those who will come after him. And in doing so, he reminds us that real power in Hollywood doesn't come from fitting in. Comes from standing out. Ncuti Gatwa's journey is the kind of story that feels almost too cinematic to be true, yet it is rooted in raw history, struggle, and the resilience of a man who refused to let circumstances define his future. Born on October 15, 1992, in Kigali, Rwanda, Ncuti entered the world at one of the darkest moments in his country's history, the Rwandan genocide. His family fled the horrors of war when he was still a child, seeking safety and a new life in Scotland. But arriving in Scotland didn't mean the challenges disappeared. Instead, young Ncuti grew up in a place where he often felt like an outsider, grappling with questions of identity, belonging, and self-worth. Being black in a predominantly white community, being an immigrant, and later embracing his queerness, he faced layers of difference that could have easily silenced him. But instead, those very differences became the foundation of his strength. Despite financial struggles, Ncuti nurtured a passion for acting that carried him forward. He studied at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, one of the country's most prestigious training grounds for actors. Early on, he threw himself into stage work, and critics began to take notice. His portrayal of Mercutio in Romeo and Juliet earned him a commendation at the Ian Charleson Awards, a recognition for young actors taking on classical roles. But while theatre sharpened his craft, it was television that would launch him into global stardom. That moment came with Sex Education, Netflix's hit series that debuted in 2019. Ncuti's role as Eric Effiong was nothing short of groundbreaking. Eric was loud, flamboyant, unapologetically queer, and deeply human. For millions of viewers, Eric wasn't just comic relief. He was a lifeline. He was a character who radiated joy while also facing the pain of rejection, bullying, and the struggle for acceptance from his family and society. Ncuti's performance made Eric one of the most beloved characters on the show, earning him a BAFTA Scotland Award for Best Actor and multiple nominations at the BAFTAs themselves. More importantly, it gave queer black youth around the world a representation they had rarely seen before. A character who wasn't defined by shame, but by vibrancy, humor, and resilience. The success of Sex Education made Ncuti Gatwa an international star, but it was his next role that would secure his place in television history. In 2022, it was announced that Ncuti would take on one of the most iconic roles in British pop culture: the Doctor in Doctor Who. With this casting, he became the first black actor and the first openly queer actor to step into the role of the Time Lord, a character that has been part of British television for 6 decades. The news sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. For some, it was overdue progress. For others, it was a bold reimagining of a cultural institution. For Ncuti, it was an opportunity to show the world that representation matters not just in small roles, but in the very heart of storytelling traditions that shape entire generations. What makes Ncuti so magnetic isn't just his acting, it's his presence. He's known for his charm, his humor, and perhaps most famously, his fearless approach to fashion. On red carpets, he defies expectations, wearing bold, colorful, gender-fluid outfits that turn heads and spark conversation. Whether it's sequined suits, daring cuts, or vibrant patterns, his style is a declaration. Queerness is not something to hide, it's something to celebrate. In a world where masculinity is often policed and boxed in, Ncuti offers a vision of manhood that is free, expressive, and unapologetically himself. But beyond the accolades and fashion statements, Ncuti Gatwa inspires because of the way he has turned his life story into a message of empowerment. He embodies the idea that queerness and blackness are not limitations. They are superpowers. They are the qualities that make him unique, that make his artistry shine, and that connect him to audiences who see themselves reflected in him. He has said openly that he never really hid his sexuality, though it wasn't until 2023 that he described himself publicly as queer. That authenticity, that willingness to live in the open, is precisely what makes him so vital in today's Hollywood. Ncuti Gatwa's rise from a child refugee to an international icon is more than just a personal triumph. It is symbolic of the broader changes happening in the entertainment industry. For decades, roles like Eric F. Young or The Doctor might have been unthinkable for a young black gay man. Today, because of actors like Ncuti, those roles are not only possible, they are celebrated. His story is proof that barriers are not immovable walls, but obstacles waiting to be dismantled. And perhaps what is most powerful is the joy he brings to everything he does. Ncuti doesn't just act. He radiates. Whether it's on the screen, on the stage, or simply walking into a room, he carries with him the energy of someone who has fought to be here and now refuses to apologize for it. That's why he resonates so deeply. Because in Ncuti Gatwa, audiences don't just see a performer, they see possibility. They see a reminder that no matter how dark your beginnings, your future can still be luminous. Keiynan Lonsdale's story is one of rhythm, resilience, and reinvention, a journey that shows how art and identity can dance together in ways that touch millions. Born on December 19, 1991, in Sydney, Australia, Keiynan grew up at the crossroads of two cultures. His father is Nigerian, his mother is of Irish descent, and from the very beginning, he carried within him a blend of heritage that set him apart. As a child, he was drawn to movement, music, and expression, the kinds of things that allowed him to feel free in a world that sometimes tried to box him in. But while many kids his age were still figuring out what they loved, Keiynan was already dreaming big, of stages, screens, and the spotlight. His early years in Sydney weren't without their challenges. Being biracial, navigating questions of identity, and searching for a place where he truly fit in wasn't always easy. But dance became his sanctuary. He trained in it, lived in it, and eventually began turning that passion into a career. One of his earliest gigs was as a backup dancer for Fame the Musical in Australia. That momentum soon translated into acting opportunities, and he got his first major break on the Australian teen dance drama Dance Academy. For many, this was the first glimpse of his talent, a young man with not only the moves but the charisma and presence to carry a story on screen. But the world really began to take notice when Keiynan crossed over into Hollywood. In 2015, he joined the hit CW series The Flash, playing Wally West, better known to comic book fans as Kid Flash. This role was huge for him. Suddenly, he wasn't just a dancer or a supporting actor. He was a superhero. And not just any superhero but one with a rich history in DC Comics lore. Keynan's performance made Wally West feel real, relatable, human but also powerful. He later reprised the role in Legends of Tomorrow, expanding his reach within the DC universe. For fans, especially young black viewers, seeing a biracial actor don the suit of Kid Flash was more than just representation. It was a reimagining of who could stand in the center of a superhero story. While The Flash established him in the US, it was another role that solidified his place in the cultural conversation. In 2018, Keiynan appeared in Love, Simon, the groundbreaking teen romantic comedy centered on a closeted gay high schooler. Keiynan played Bram, the mysterious love interest whose identity is revealed in one of the film's most heartfelt twists. For many viewers, Bram wasn't just a character. He was a symbol. He was one of the first portrayals of a black gay teen in a mainstream Hollywood film, and his love story with Simon was celebrated as historic. At a time when queer cinema often lived on the margins, Love, Simon brought a joyful, inclusive narrative into the mainstream, and Keynan's performance made it unforgettable. But Keiynan Lonsdale isn't just an actor. He's also a musician. His music career has become an extension of his journey towards self-acceptance and liberation. In 2018, he released the single Kiss the Boy, a sweet, celebratory anthem that encouraged listeners to embrace love openly, without fear. The song resonated deeply with LGBTQ+ fans, many of whom saw in Keiynan the same courage they were striving for themselves. In 2020, he released his debut studio album, Rainbow Boy. Filled with tracks that blended pop, R&B, and electronic sounds, the album was more than just music. It was a manifesto. It celebrated queerness, freedom, and joy, offering listeners not just catchy tunes but a vision of a world where everyone could dance in their truth. His journey with identity has also been marked by courage and clarity. In 2017, Keiynan came out publicly as bisexual, sharing an emotional Instagram post where he encouraged others to love themselves. But later, he clarified that he identifies as gay, describing sexuality as a journey that takes time to fully understand. That honesty, first about uncertainty and then about clarity, has made him deeply relatable. He didn't present himself as perfect or with all the answers. Instead, he showed that it's okay to evolve, to learn about yourself, and to take your time in embracing who you are. What makes Keiynan so inspiring is that his message goes far beyond acting or singing. He has consistently used his platform to remind the world that art is liberation. He believes in the power of creativity to break down walls, to challenge stereotypes, and to heal wounds. Through his roles, his music, and his openness, he embodies the idea that love, whether romantic love, self-love, or the love expressed through art, is itself a radical act of freedom. From Sydney to Hollywood, from Kid Flash's lightning-fast adventures to Bram's tender love story, from the dance floor to the recording studio, Keiynan Lonsdale has carved out a space that is entirely his own. He doesn't fit into boxes, and he doesn't try to. Instead, he expands the space around him, showing others that they too can exist in all their fullness. His life and career remind us that authenticity isn't just about telling the truth. It's about living it, joyfully and unapologetically. And that's why Keiynan Lonsdale stands out in today's Hollywood. He isn't just a performer. He's a movement. Every step, every song, every role is a reminder of the power of art, the beauty of identity, and the liberation that comes when you embrace both. Justice Smith's rise in Hollywood is a story of talent meeting fearlessness, a reminder that the next generation of stars doesn't just play characters, they embody change. Born on August 9, 1995, in Los Angeles, Justice was raised in a multi-ethnic family that gave him a deep appreciation for diversity from the start. His father is of African American descent, while his mother has Italian and French-Canadian roots, a blend that made him stand out in a city already known for its mix of cultures. Growing up in the very heart of the entertainment capital of the world might sound glamorous, but for Justice, it was less about bright lights and more about hard work. He studied acting at the Orange County School of the Arts, honing his craft in a setting that challenged him to take risks and trust his instincts. Even as a teenager, he knew that acting wasn't just about pretending, it was about truth. That pursuit of truth led to his first big break in 2016 with Baz Luhrmann's Netflix series The Get Down. Justice played Ezekiel Zeke Figueroa, a talented poet navigating life in the Bronx during the birth of hip-hop. The series was visually spectacular, full of music, energy and color, but what stood out most was Justice's performance. He gave Zeke vulnerability and depth, balancing youthful ambition with the pain of struggle. Critics praised him as one of the show's brightest discoveries, and suddenly, Justice Smith wasn't just a newcomer. He was a name to watch. Hollywood took notice quickly. In 2018, he landed a major role in Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, the blockbuster sequel to one of cinema's most successful franchises. As Franklin Webb, a young systems analyst thrown into the chaos of dinosaurs running wild, Justice brought both humor and heart to the role. He reprised the character in Jurassic World Dominion, further cementing his place in the franchise. Around the same time, he starred opposite Ryan Reynolds in Pokémon Detective Pikachu, another global box office hit. These projects proved that Justice wasn't confined to indie dramas. He could hold his own in massive, big-budget productions watched by millions. But what makes Justice Smith extraordinary isn't just the scale of his projects, it's the choices he makes within them. While many actors might have stayed safely within the world of blockbusters, Justice leaned into bold, risky, and deeply personal roles. In HBO's Generation, he played Chester, a flamboyant, openly queer teenager navigating high school life. The role was unapologetic, loud, and full of emotion, and Justice played it with authenticity, refusing to water down the character's queerness for mainstream comfort. In 2023, he starred in the indie film I Saw the TV Glow, a haunting exploration of queer identity and loneliness wrapped inside a surreal horror drama. For Justice, these projects weren't just about stretching his range. They were about telling stories that mattered, stories that gave visibility to experiences often left in the shadows. Justice's courage on screen mirrors his courage off it. In June 2020, during the height of the Black Lives Matter protests, Justice used his Instagram platform to make a powerful statement. He not only stood in solidarity with the movement but also emphasized the importance of intersectionality, making it clear that Black queer lives mattered too. In that same post, he publicly came out as queer, describing his sexuality as something he was no longer willing to keep private. He shared pictures and words about attending protests with his partner, actor Nicholas L. Ashe, and the announcement went viral. Fans and fellow actors praised his honesty, not just for coming out, but for tying his truth to a broader fight for justice and equality. His relationship with Nicholas L. Ashe, best known for his role in the TV drama Queen Sugar, became another source of inspiration for fans. The two shared moments of their love publicly. Sweet photos, heartfelt posts, and quiet gestures of affection that resonated with people hungry for authentic queer representation. For many, seeing two young Black actors openly in love was nothing short of revolutionary. In an industry that often pressures stars to hide their personal lives, Justice and Nicholas chose visibility, showing that romance, vulnerability, and joy belong to everyone. The impact of Justice Smith's openness cannot be overstated. He is one of the few actors who seamlessly moves between blockbuster hits and deeply queer indie films, refusing to choose one over the other. He has proven that being openly queer doesn't limit success. It broadens it. He is a reminder that audiences want authenticity, that they're ready for heroes who look like him, love like him, and live like him. Justice once said in an interview that he doesn't want to be boxed in, that he doesn't want his career or his identity to be defined by limitations. That philosophy is evident in everything he does. Whether he's running from dinosaurs, chasing clues with Pikachu, or diving into experimental indie projects, he brings the same truthfulness to his work. And in living openly, he's paving the way for others to do the same. Justice Smith isn't just a rising star. He's already a queer hero. He stands at the intersection of blockbuster success and radical honesty, showing the world that you don't have to hide who you are to make it in Hollywood. In fact, by embracing his truth, he's showing what real stardom looks like. Fearless, unapologetic, and deeply human. Philemon Chambers' story is one of quiet strength and groundbreaking visibility, the kind of Hollywood journey that doesn't just build a career, it opens doors for countless others. Born and raised in Compton, California, Chambers grew up in a community often associated with toughness and resilience. But behind his smile and ambition, he carried scars from struggles many young people know all too well. He has spoken about being bullied as a child, about feeling like he never quite fit in, and about the body dysmorphia that made him constantly question how he looked. For a long time, he wrestled with confidence. But as he would later prove, those early challenges didn't break him. They forged the authenticity that would make him one of Hollywood's most refreshing new voices. Before he ever led a film, Philemon worked steadily to build his craft. He landed small guest roles on television, appearing in shows like Criminal Minds and All Rise. They weren't flashy parts, but they gave him the experience of being on set, learning how the industry worked, and discovering what it meant to bring himself to a character. Like many young actors, he put in the years of quiet effort before that one opportunity that changes everything finally came his way. That opportunity arrived in 2021 with Netflix's single All the Way. The holiday rom-com genre is beloved, but for decades it told the same kind of love story. Heterosexual, white, predictable. Single All the Way shattered that mold. For the first time, a major studio released a Christmas romantic comedy centered not only on a gay love story but one with a black gay man as the lead. Philemon Chambers played Nick, the supportive best friend whose friendship with Peter, played by Michael Urie, blossoms into romance over the course of the film. The role was warm, funny, tender, and above all authentic. Philemon's decision to step into such a groundbreaking role for his very first film wasn't accidental. He said openly that he wanted to choose a queer role as his debut, because he knew how much it would mean for audiences who rarely, if ever, saw themselves represented in that kind of story. For him, authenticity was non-negotiable. Instead of playing it safe, instead of starting with a neutral or stereotypical part, he put his truth front and center. And audiences responded. The film became a holiday hit, cherished not just for its sweet storyline but for what it symbolized. That queer love stories deserve the same joy, the same sparkle, and the same mainstream spotlight as any other. Critics praised Chambers for his natural charm, the ease with which he carried Nick's character, and the way he made the love story believable. He wasn't trying to fit into anyone else's definition of a leading man. He simply showed up as himself, and that was enough. For many LGBTQ+ viewers, seeing a black gay man in a holiday rom-com was revolutionary. Representation isn't just about politics, it's about being able to imagine yourself in moments of joy, romance, and celebration. And Philemon gave that gift to audiences who had been waiting far too long. But his career didn't stop there. In 2022, Philemon joined the cast of Walker: Independence, a prequel to the popular CW series Walker. In this show, set in the late 1800s, he played Augustus, the town's deputy who brings both integrity and compassion to a lawless world. The role was completely different from Nick in Single All the Way, proving that Chambers has range far beyond romantic comedies. It showed that he can inhabit period dramas, handle action, and bring depth to a role outside the modern urban settings audiences first saw him in. For a young actor, this versatility is crucial. It's what ensures longevity in an industry always chasing the next big thing. What makes Philemon Chambers truly special, though, isn't just his roles. It's the way he represents an entire generation of queer audiences who are hungry to see themselves in mainstream love stories. Too often, queer characters in film have been relegated to sidekicks, tragedies, or comic relief. Rarely have they been given the chance to take center stage in a romantic comedy that celebrates them. Chambers turned that narrative upside down. He became the leading man not despite being gay, but proudly as a gay man. That shift matters deeply, especially for young viewers who are still discovering their own identities. Philemon has spoken about the responsibility he feels in his career, that every role he takes on should mean something, not just for him but for those watching. And when you look at his work so far, it's clear that this sense of purpose drives him. He knows that every smile, every kiss, every moment of vulnerability he brings to the screen can ripple out into the world, giving someone else the courage to be themselves. As he continues to build his career, Philemon Chambers stands as proof that authenticity isn't a barrier to success, it's a foundation. He's not trying to be the next version of anyone else. He's carving his own path. Whether in a cozy Christmas rom-com or a gritty period drama, he brings the same truth to his work, and that's what makes audiences root for him. In the end, Philemon isn't just a rising star. He's a pioneer. He's giving voice and visibility to a kind of love story that deserves to be told again and again. And for every young queer person who turns on Netflix during the holidays and sees Nick finding love under the mistletoe, the message is clear. You belong here too. Hollywood has always been a place of contradictions. It's where dreams are made and crushed, where beauty is celebrated but also boxed in, and where countless actors have been told to hide who they are if they want to succeed. For decades, being openly gay was seen as a risk, especially for men expected to play leading roles. Yet here we are, in a new era with 5 young black, openly gay actors not only succeeding but redefining what it means to be a star. Their stories are more than resumes. They're testaments to survival, courage, and the unstoppable power of authenticity. Jeremy Pope showed us that Broadway and Hollywood don't just reward talent, they reward honesty. He made history with 2 Tony nominations in the same year, then moved into film and television with roles that dared to show both vulnerability and power. His career is proof that authenticity doesn't close doors. It opens bigger ones. Ncuti Gatwa reminded us that beginnings don't determine endings. From fleeing the Rwandan genocide to becoming the first black queer doctor in Doctor Who, he turned pain into purpose. With his fearless performances and bold fashion, he shows that queerness and blackness aren't obstacles, they're strengths. Keiynan Lonsdale danced into Hollywood's heart and refused to step out of rhythm. As Kid Flash, he became a superhero. As Bram in Love, Simon, he became a symbol for queer teen cinema. And through his music, he turned his journey of self-discovery into an anthem for freedom. His message is clear. Art is liberation and so is love. Justice Smith proved that blockbuster fame and queer visibility are not opposites. From Jurassic World to Detective Pikachu, he became a mainstream star. But through roles in Generation and I Saw the TV Glow, as well as his public coming out, he also became a queer hero. His openness, both on screen and off, shows that true power comes from refusing to hide. And Philemon Chambers gave us the love story so many had been waiting for. With Single All the Way, he became the first black gay lead in a holiday rom-com, gifting queer audiences the joy of seeing themselves at the heart of a Christmas movie. His choice to debut with such a role wasn't just brave, it was revolutionary. He represents a generation that no longer wants to ask for visibility, but demands it. Together, these 5 men are rewriting Hollywood's rules. They've faced homophobia, stereotypes, and doubts, yet their success shines brighter because it comes with honesty. They've redefined beauty itself. Handsome no longer means tall, dark, and straight. It means authentic, unapologetic, and real. In their faces, audiences see not just actors but possibilities. New definitions of love, strength, and masculinity. The truth is, Hollywood still has far to go. It remains an industry where conservatism lingers, where some still whisper about who should or shouldn't be marketable. But these 5 men are living proof that the old rules don't hold anymore. The new rule is authenticity. And authenticity is magnetic. It draws people in, it inspires, it heals. What ties Jeremy, Ncuti, Keiynan, Justice, and Philemon together is not just their sexuality, not just their talent, but their refusal to dim their light. Each of them has chosen to shine fully, even when it meant taking risks. And in doing so, they've given the rest of us permission to shine too. These men aren't just actors. They are symbols of what happens when you refuse to dim your light. If their stories inspired you today, let's keep the conversation going. Like this video, subscribe for more stories that matter, and share it with someone who needs to see that representation is not just a dream, it's happening right now. Because every view, every click, every conversation helps ensure that Hollywood continues to open its doors wider, until everyone can see themselves reflected in its brightest stars.